ज्ञानतिमिरस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशकारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिसे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते सप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण। So what is discussed in 8 chapters so far? questions, and then Krishna answers them in the third verse he answers 3 questions, and the fourth verse 4 questions, and in the fifth and sixth he answers 8 questions. So, some of the points. Fine, and the next section we saw was 10 to 13, that is Yoga Mishra. Fine, so now we're going ahead with the 14th verse. That is 14 to 16, pure devotional service. So we now have to describe next devotional service, the 7th chapter, and also the Yoga Mishra. So now he's speaking about pure devotional service. 14. Ananya Cheta Sadatam Yoman Narati Nityashaha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Yuktasya Yoginaha. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I'm easy to obtain, O son of Krishna, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Okay, the first paragraph. So this is the definition of pure devotional service. It is very similar to the definition given by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyabilasha Shunyam Jnana Karmadhyanavisam Anupudyana Krishnana Sunnam Bhakti. So here also it's very similar, the same elements of the definition are there. So the first word is Ananya Chetaha. Ananya Cheta means without deviation of the mind. And so the brother is explaining that there is no deviation towards karma, jnana, yoga, so no other contamination, no other deviation, no material desires. So that is the meaning of Anya Chetaha. So in the practice of pure devotional service, no desire for self-interest and only desire for Krishna. So that is the meaning of pure devotional service. So otherwise everyone else, Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, everyone else has some self-interest, something for oneself. But on the path of pure devotional service, one desires only to please Krishna. And of course, later on in study number devotion, Krishna means also pleasing his devotees, that includes it. So therefore, on the path of pure devotional service, the important point is that one desires only to please Krishna or his pure devotees. That should be the only goal. If there is any other goal, then it is a contamination in one's practice. Then the contaminated devotional service will not lead to good progress on the path of devotional service. If one wants to quickly progress, then one needs to check one's motivation while practicing. So of course, when we come to devotional service initially, there could be different motivations. Therefore, Krishna also begins his presentation on bhakti with mixed devotional service initially, because initially people do come with material motivation. So usually many times we find people come especially for relief of distress. Especially in Kali Yuga, many people get sufficiently frustrated in the material world. And so they think, at least here, I will become free from all distress. Because after the devotees advertising for people, time can be happy. So everyone is told you simply can, and you will become happy. No more distress. So many people come with that idea to become free from distress. Some may also come for getting well, foreign opportunities. Some even come for getting Indians may come for getting a white wife. So many people come with different desires. And so each one may come with different desires. But the important point is whether we maintain those desires. One maintains the desires and that. After some time, one is supposed to realize that these desires are not conducive for my progress. So therefore, the 10th offense against holy name is what? So to maintain the material desires, maintain them is an offense. In spite of hearing so many times that I should be actually giving them up. So therefore, one has to first of all understand that I have them. Then one should give them up. So initially, the desires, attachments are usually gross, and then later on it will become more and more simple. So usually there may be desires for Kanaka and Kamini, wealth and opportunity. But later on, desires for Kanaka and Kamini may reduce. But then not for so somebody in the renounced order will desire the pratishtha that I am renounced. Look, I am so renounced. So one may become proud of one's renunciation. and one may want to be glorified for one's renunciation. So one can renounce so many of the gross things, but this subtle attachment, which is Prabhupada also described as subtle attachment, this becomes very difficult. Therefore, one has to work on another desire for pratishtha. So, we also describe Chandalini. Chandalini is shameless. So, what the competition list is doing like that. And so, similarly, the desire for pratishtha, for sexual renunciation, so all devotees for renunciation, and the desire and peace. And then he says, Chandalini has got a paramour. Who's that? After witness is the paramour of the. If one has a desire for pratishtha, then in order to get the pratishtha, one resorts to crooked deals. Therefore, they go hand in hand. So, His Honor Guru Maharaj, he gives a simple example just to illustrate the point. It's not so bad, but just to illustrate the point. So, just like somebody is serving gulab jamun. So how many like gulab? Wow. So, service attitude. हाँ, तो आपके लिए तो बहुत आसान. Somebody is serving, so then और उस दिन ये शिवरामन so very mercifully he made unlimited. So the server is he served 2 initially, ठीक है ले लिया, फिर वापस आ गया और 2, और समझो आपका फेवरेट है तो 2 और ले लिया और फिर से आ गया So he's about to serve. So if I'm the one honoring, so then what I do? इधर कोई देख रहा है, वो देख रहा है. So then what I लेकिन मन में क्या चल रहा है? लेकिन so he gives this example. समझ गया ना? अंदर कुछ चल रहा है और बाहर कुछ. It's not too gross a mistake, but there's a subtle desire. What will others think about? In this case, it's quite an innocent mistake, not too bad, but to illustrate the point, you got the point. So this is called kapatya. Okay. And then this extends more and more. This could extend to any limit. So because one has the pratishtha asha, the desire for prestige, so then one can resort to any sort of crooked behavior. So sometimes cheating can go on to get money, to get prestige, to get post and position. Cheating takes place, so much cheating. So that's how pratishtha asha and kapatya go together. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said, Saralata e Vaishnava. Want to be a Vaishnava, be simple. Give up this crooked behavior. Can't progress with crooked behavior. So, therefore, he says, what is the solution? The solution is to sincerely follow the instructions of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas and try to purify oneself. And actually, all the sorts of crooked behavior greatly agitates the mind. So suppose to cover up for one's fault, one has told a lie. So one to cover up for one lie, it is said one has to say 100 lies. So to what extent this can take place? Of course, so many things take place. But just to give an example of to what extent this kapatya can take place, just for one's pratishtha. So in one center, so there was one devotee who he went to that place, he started preaching on the instruction of Superior Vaishnavas. And then he slowly preached nicely, built a nice congregation, and nice preaching was going on. Almost 300, 400 devotees, and many got initiated. Nice preaching was going. So then, when the congregation expands, then there's a need and there's a desire to build a nice temple. Okay, bona fide desire. So the devotee, the leader, the congregation leader, he approached his spiritual master and he said, see, now congregation is growing. So now we should build a temple. So the spiritual master said, no, see, there are some other projects, new projects that are also coming up. So you wait for some time. After some time you can build. So then maybe after a few months he approached again. The spiritual master still said, no, you wait for some. So then, after some months, this devotee started thinking, hey, what is this? I brought all this congregation. I made all these devotees. And this guru is not allowing me to build a temple. What nonsense is this? So, this is the problem. Pratishtha Asha. So initially it begins with an innocent desire. But then the desire for that prestige is so deep-rooted that one thinks because I built this congregation, I built this temple. So then it all boils down to I and mine. And so this devotee got so frustrated and angry. He went against his spiritual master. And then later on, he went to Radhakund and he invited his followers also to go there. Of course, the followers are a little more intelligent. So not many went, or hardly anybody went actually. But because this person went away, then he did this great blunder. The whole preaching suffered greatly. So these things happen. These things happen. So one is even ready to give up one's own spiritual master because of pratishtha asha, leading to kapatya. So one is ready to resort to crooked behavior, all sorts of very dangerous, very dangerous. This has happened, unfortunately, many times in our society. Therefore, one must always be on guard. What are my motivations in my practices of devotional service? Why am I practicing? What is my goal? Usually, everyone comes with right motivations, right desires. But as years pass, and then there is some success, then, as His Holiness Ranat Swami Maharaj says, one becomes a prisoner of success. The false ego traps one, and one begins to think that I'm such an important person. I'm doing all these things. I deserve the prestige. I deserve the honor, puja, love, pratishtha. I deserve all these things. And if I don't get them, then I will resort to crooked things to somehow get them. So we're just telling you these things because as an English saying goes, pre-warned is forewarned. It's better to give the warning beforehand. Yeah. So therefore, these are all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service, and it's good to be aware of them as we are talking about what's our ultimate goal, and that is Ananya Chetaha Satatam. Always, always, the goal has to be very clear that my only goal is to please Krishna, nothing else. And we have to keep reminding ourselves of this goal. Therefore, the constant hearing and reading is essential so that we remind ourselves. And as we were discussing in the Bhagavatam class that day, so usually after some time, then the problem arises because one thinks, now it is okay. So then the problem comes. Okay. So Ananya Chetaha Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha. So Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha, one who always remembers me. So you can see in this verse, 3 times there are similar words: Satatam, Nityashaha, and Nityayuktasya. So all are same meaning. Always. So devotional service is not a part-time, not a part-time job. Of course, you can do a part-time job, but devotional service is not part-time. You can do a part-time job in the temple, but devotional service is not part-time. Devotional services, satatam, apratihata, without interruption, 24 hours. Devotional service. Always thinking about Krishna. Okay. Prabhupada writes in the next paragraph. Bhakti yoga is very simple and pure and easy to perform. The sentence before that, such a devotee meets with none of the problems that plague the practitioners of other yogas. So we have already discussed in the first 6 chapters. What are the obstacles or the problems, the challenges in the practice of other yoga systems that we have already discussed. So, but all those problems and challenges don't exist on the path of Bhakti Yoga. So therefore, Bhakti Yoga is very simple and pure. So it's simple, but at the same time pure, easy to perform. One can begin simply by chanting Hare Krishna. And the Lord is merciful to all, but as I already explained, is especially inclined towards those who always serve Him without deviation. The Lord helps such devotees in various ways. Such devotees. Which devotees? Yes. Serve Him without deviation. Without deviation. To such devotees, the Lord reciprocates. And how He reciprocates? Dadami buddhi yogam tam. The Lord gives such a devotee sufficient intelligence so that ultimately the devotee can attain Him in his spiritual kingdom. So we already discussed quite elaborately on Smaranam, Smarati Nityashaha, and also Nitya Yuktasya. Nitya Yuktasya means constantly having a relationship with Krishna, and therefore Prabhupada is talking about the 5 primary rasas in the last paragraph of the purport. In any of these ways, the pure devotee is always constantly engaged in the constant loving service of the Supreme Lord and cannot forget the Supreme Lord, and so for him, the Lord is easily attained. A pure devotee cannot forget the Supreme Lord for a moment. And similarly, the Supreme Lord cannot forget his pure devotee for a moment. This is the great blessing of the Krishna conscious process of chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And now the second last paragraph, Prabhupada has read that second last paragraph, the special qualification. And the special qualification of a pure devotee is that he is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediment. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere at any time. Some say that the devotee should remain in holy places like Vrindavan or some holy town where the Lord lives. But the pure devotee can live anywhere and create atmosphere of Vrindavan by his devotional service. It was Sri Advaita who told Lord Chaitanya, wherever you are, O Lord, there is Vrindavan. Yes. So this is again the meaning of Nityashaha Sasatam. So the devotional service is not dependent on some time, place, circumstances. As in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, that is second canto, 9th chapter, verse 36. The Lord himself is describing devotional services. Sarvatra Sarvada. Devotional service can be performed at all places and at all times. Sarvatra Sarvada. All places, all times. So devotional service can be performed in the womb of the mother, like Prahlad. Parikshit, he didn't do anything active within the womb. He was saved. But Prahlad did something active. What is that? Yes. So Prahlad. And then one can also perform devotional service when one is a grand old man, like he was always devout. Ajamil. And of course, in between so many examples. But the point is that devotional service can be performed in any circumstance. All times, all places. I don't know if I told this story before, but you know the Juhu story in 1978? So this is after the temple was inaugurated. Temple was inaugurated when? Which day? Yes. So good, relevant pastime. We just had Makar Sankranti yesterday. So after that, and we know Lord Narasimhadev liberated Mr. N, but there was his brother-in-law, Mr. Matre, who was a municipal, one of the members of the Bombay Municipal Corporation. So he was burning with anger. He wanted revenge. And so he was looking for an opportunity. And at that time, still in the Juhu complex, there were many tenants who were staying there in those buildings. So anyway, so one day there was a person whose shoes were stolen. These things are quite common, right? Chappal shoes. And so there was one man whose chappal got stolen, and he was arguing with the chowkidar, and so there was some heated argument. And in the heated argument, the chowkidar he took iron bar and banged it on the head of the man. The man died. And it seems Venkateshwar knows the rest of the story. Bolo, bolo. Okay, I'm going to tell in shortly. So, and obviously, big commotion, so many neighboring people, all the tenants and all the people, no, they're all low class people. So then big crowd came, and then there were these Western devotees. All of them were Western at that time, and then there were all these people. There was actually physical fighting, and some of these Western devotees were very well built and strong, and they started smashing these people. So, and then they got so the mob, the crowd, they got dispelled because they also got a little frightened and all that. And then they closed the gates of the temple. People were banging. That's so much. It was a horrible incident. And then, of course, the news went to Matre, and he got a good chance now to accuse the devotees. So he immediately got into action. He informed the police commissioner, and all that. And so then the next day, the policeman came, and they said, okay, we just want to identify who's the culprit. And then they made all the devotees stand in line. And so actually, Giriraj Maharaj, he made a passing reference to this incident in his talk. Yes. So he was not there at that time. He and Tamal Krishna Maharaj both were not there. And they came the next day. And so then when they were trying to find out, then Giriraj Maharaj said, I was not there yesterday. So, and but they said, no, we have to have a trial. And so all the devotees, including His Holiness Sridhar Maharaj, they were all put in the police van. They were taken to the court. And actually, there was going to be a trial first, but then without any trial, because of this Matre's. So then they put all the devotees in jail. And so there were almost about 14 devotees or so. They were all put in jail, along with all the 10th class criminals and all those people in a shabby jail cell. So now the devotees always looking for some intelligent ways of doing things. So they told the remaining jail inmates of that cell, they requested them to shift to other jail cells so that they could have one room exclusively for themselves. So somehow the other jail inmates agreed, and so the devotees had one jail cell exclusively for themselves because they were inmates almost 15 people. And then the next day, the program began as normal. So then next day, Mangalarti began as usual. There were no instruments, no, not even pictures or lamination, nothing. Somebody can sing. And then one devotee began to worship. And the interesting part is, after the ghee lamp was offered, then one devotee even started passing it. And other devotees started honoring the ghee lamp. So everything just continued. And then, after 2 or 3 days, then the other jail inmates, they also got interested in what these people are doing. And they also started honoring the ghee lamp. And it said that that jail cell became a holy place. And even the policemen would remove their shoes to enter. And sometimes even the policemen would take part in the aarti. And then the devotee said, we won't accept this jail food. So they said, the jail authority said, no, you can't get food from anywhere else. You have to take this. They said, forget it, we're starving. So then after a day, the jail authorities got frightened, something happens as all Westerners. So then they said, okay, you get your food. So then they told the temple, prasad came from the temple. So initially it was coming only for the devotees. Then the devotees thought, let's do some service. So then some little extra prasad started coming and they started distributing to the other jail inmates. And they got taste of prasad, and then obviously the quantity has to increase. So then very soon buckets and buckets of prasadam started coming. And after some time, along with the prasadam, some books also started coming. And book distribution also started. So then what remains there? So, and then after maybe 10, 12 days or something. So then they actually had a trial in the court, and then basically the chowkidar and one other person, both of them were incriminated. So they were put in the prison, and all the other devotees were released. So then Vishwanath Sridhar Maharaj, when he remarked, those days in the jail were the best days of my life. So, what is an impediment to devotional service? Therefore, in Germany also, when devotees were being regularly arrested by the police, the devotees were thinking of appointing a lawyer, file a case, appoint a lawyer, and do all that. Of course, they have to pay a huge amount to the lawyer. So they consulted Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada, no, there's no need of all that. You go to jail, you chant Hare Krishna. And that's what they did. So they will go to jail, chant Hare Krishna. jail authorities of these people are nuisance here. Throw them out. So again, they would come out, again, same thing. So like that. And of course, we have the best example of Russia. So they were ready to make beads out of rice. So therefore, there is no impediment to devotion. No one can say that because of this reason I can't perform devotion. In any circumstance, one can perform. So that's what Prabhupada is writing over here. The special qualification of the pure devotee that is always thinking of Krishna without deviation and without considering the time or place. There should be no impediment. He should be able to carry out his service anywhere and at any time. And of course, Srila Prabhupada practically demonstrated that in his own life. So that's pure devotional service. Then if a devotee, he acts in this way, then what is the result? Krishna says, Tasya aham sulabhaha. Then for such a devotee, devotional service becomes sulabhaha, becomes very easy, and then Krishna becomes easily attainable for such a devotee. So that's the price one needs to pay. But if one pays that price, always in an uninterrupted way, practice devotional service, and Krishna reciprocates by taking such a devotee back to the spiritual world. So then what happens to such a devotee? Krishna is saying in the next text, Krishna. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah tam siddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. Okay, so then such great souls, after attaining Mamupetya. So who is going to attain him? That is specified in the previous verse. So then after attaining him, Mam Upetya Punarjanma Dukkhalem Ashashvatam Napnuvanti. Then such great souls, they don't have to come back into this material world, which is Dukkhalem Ashashvatam. And such devotees are called as Mahatmana, the great souls. And comes to them Paramagati perfection. So Prabhupada writes here. It's talking about Golok Vrindavan. Since this temporary material world is full of miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, and naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme plan, Krishna of Golok Vrindavan, does not wish to return. That's interesting. Many times devotees ask this question. We fell down once, then why can't it happen again? I thought this was an interesting point. It does not wish to return. So after having the experiences in the material world, which obviously are not pleasant, then he does not wish to return. So that means he uses his free will not to desire to come back. The free will is always there, but he uses the free will to desire not to return. And of course, therefore, Krishna is giving all these assurances. So yes, he will not return because he does not wish to return either. Yes. The Supreme Planet is just very Avyakta Akshara Paramagati. That planet is beyond our material vision, inexplicable, highest goal, the destination for the Mahatmas. The Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service and Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. Prabhupada says they don't even want to go to the spiritual planet. So should we desire or no? Prabhupada said a million times, one has desired to go back home, back to Godhead. But here he's saying the devotees don't wish, don't desire to even go to the spiritual planet. So what we should do? Okay, that's correct. What you said is correct. So should we desire to go back to the spiritual world or no? We should desire to go back, but higher level is we should not desire. Anywhere you will do service only. That point is understood. But to render service, should one desire to go back to the spiritual world? Prabhupada is writing that, I agree. So, do you want Krishna's association in the spiritual world or here? Yeah, yeah. Okay, good point. Any other thoughts? Or should we decide by vote? वोट से सब कुछ होता है क्या? कुछ नहीं तो कुछ तो. हाँ बोलो. Give to Kripa Sandhu. क्या चाहिए आपको? जाना है या नहीं? नहीं, जो आपके मन में आप बोल सकते हैं, कुछ को चिंता नहीं है. Whatever Krishna plans will. ठीक है, वो तो वैसे ही होने वाला है. लेकिन आपकी इच्छा क्या है? माइंड इज गेटिंग लव. ठीक है, हमारा प्रश्न एकदम स्पष्ट है. क्या है? यू वांट टू गो टू द स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्ड? यस, यस, गुड. व्हाई? जस्ट होम. थोड़ा स्पष्टीकरण तो रुपीज जैन मंदिर. ओके, फाइन. So, why can't you do that here? What is the problem in doing that here? Okay, let's pass on the question. रुको. Okay, I mean, physical body, just lot of time goes in maintaining this body. So that time we can serve Lord this Lord. So there is no suffering in the spirit. Yes. Amit, so you have something? Similarly, it's not able to serve something. Okay, there is a possibility of forgiveness. What you said that
material body limits our devotional service. That's not correct, sir.
That's not correct.
Hmm.
So Venkatesh is arguing. Prove your point, Venkatesh.
So that happens when you reach to a stage of love, prema and bhava.
So then you, only after coming to love you'll go there also.
For going there, we can desire at Mr. stage and another stage.
Okay, that is fine. You desire anytime, but the point is you have to come to bhav and prema to actually go to the spiritual.
So goal should be clear where we should reach.
Okay, that's needless to say. But the question is that should one actually desire to go on? That is the question.
We have to desire because our Siddha Swarupa is there only. So we have come to the foreign place.
What do you say?
That is our home, actual home. So there is no harm in desiring go back to home.
Yes, this is point which proper.
But Devotee Prahlad Maharaj says, let me be here in this material world and let me reach as much as possible. So that is also one thing we have to know.
So that is also so Prabhupada only said one should desire to go back home, back to God, and now you are saying Prabhupada said no, following in footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj and desire to free. So what to do? He is going to give the final solution. Yeah. How many times you want to go? Desire to go back this life or after 1 million lives? After 1 million lives? I'm not going to this ever after 10 times, but proper coach to the Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur and says, finish business in this life only. No. You think this is a different thing. No, I'm ready to finish my business in this lifetime. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. That is the spiritual master says, no, you have to come to another planet and other material world, for serving them, we should go. That time this conflict will come. Conflict of interest. I want to go, spiritual master says, don't go. So that is what now what we're discussing, you're talking about future. Now what we're discussing, now whether one should go. Right now I should desire because then and then it's like a motivation for me. That is the motivation. So motivation is to practice spiritual life. So that's motivation is to practice devotional life for to serve into the spiritual master. To serve the spiritual master. Where? Here in material world or here? Where happen here? No. So the point is that yes, so desiring to go back to the spiritual world is not wrong because that's our home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada said it in time. So therefore, desiring to go back home is not wrong. And also the point does remain that even though there are no impediments to the practice of devotional service, the material body itself is an impediment in the practice of devotion. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he made that point very clear that one should desire to go back home, back to God. At the same time, we leave it in Krishna's hands. If Krishna wants us to remain here and serve, we're ready to do that. But that's his prerogative. But from our side, we should definitely desire to go back to the spiritual world so that we can serve in our eternal constitutional position. Okay. So, but the ultimate basic point is that we are only interested in Krishna's association, that means Krishna's service. So it's not like the liberation which the Mayavadis aspire for. So the Mayavadis, they also are aspiring to get out of the material world. But what is the problem there? They want merge, liberation. So what is the problem with this desire for liberation? Yes, it is selfish because I want liberation so that I am free from misery. So it's still a selfish desire. But our desire to go back to the spiritual world is not selfish because we only desire to serve. It's not simply getting out of some anxieties and misery. So, in the spiritual world, are there any anxieties? No? That is spiritual anxiety. But anxieties are there. Correct. You're intelligent. Okay. One question. Here, is Prabhupada referring to any other planet means, any other spiritual planet means Vaikuntha or other, like one reaching Golok Vrindavan, one does not desire to go to Vaikuntha, like that? Is this Prabhupada mentioning? Intending to say like that. Okay. Here Prabhupada is saying, no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. Any spiritual. So that means basically that, yes, one does not want to be transferred to the spiritual planet simply, just like the Mayavadis, simply for the sake of getting free from misery. To Kalayam Ashashvatam, so let me be free from misery, so I want to go to the spiritual, and not for that purpose. So therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila, speaking about pure devotional service, he is describing that how the pure devotee does not even desire the four types of Vaikuntha liberation. What are they? Sarupya, Samipya, Sarishti, Salokya. So if there is no service to the Lord, then a devotee does not even desire any of these Vaikuntha liberation. So that's the point. So that's the point of it. So if there is no service, then a devotee does not even desire to go to Vaikuntha. That is what is saying. Because the only thing the devotee wants is devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That's, you see the whole sentence. The Mahatmas receive constant messages from the realized devotees and is gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service. So the emphasis is on the service. Because they become absorbed in the service, they only want to serve. So if Krishna wants the devotee to serve in the material planet, then the devotee is ready. In one lecture, actually, Srila Prabhupada says, even if Krishna wants us to go to hell, they are ready. So actually, he says that in the same context of going to the jail and chanting in the jail, preaching in the jail. So then in that context, Prabhupada says, yes, even we are ready to even to go to hell. We'll do the same thing, even in hell. So that's the mode. So the mode is one is ready to serve anywhere. So yes, we can desire to go back home, back to Godhead, but at the same time, we are dependent on Krishna. Wherever Krishna wants, we're ready. The mode. Okay, fine. But even if one goes to any other planet, what will be the result? Brahma bhuvana loka punaravartana arjuna mamapetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Okay, so you see Krishna keep giving these assurances that one who goes to Krishna's abode will not have to take birth again. And then Prabhupada is describing how even if one goes to Brahmaloka, if on Brahmaloka one does not cultivate Krishna consciousness, then he must return to earth. Okay, fine. So this is this section about your devotional service from 14 to 16. Okay, the Prabhupada's lecture, please read.
For example, my residence is at Vrindavan, that is the place of Krishna, where Krishna adventures himself. So now I am in America, in your country, but that does not mean I am out of Vrindavan. Because if I think of Krishna always, it is as good as being in Vrindavan. I am in New York, in this apartment, but my consciousness is there in Vrindavan. In his spiritual planet. Simply have to.
So, one can be anywhere in this world and be Krishna conscious. So when it's Krishna conscious, it's as good as living with Krishna. Spiritual planet.
That is our Krishna conscious life. Krishna wants it. I must do it. I will not do anything for me. That is Vrindavan. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are trying to fulfill Krishna's desire. The cowherd boys, the cows, the trees, the flowers, the water, the gopis, the elderly inhabitants, Mother Yashoda, Nanda, they are all engaged in fulfilling Krishna's desire. That is Vrindavan. So you can turn this material world into Vrindavan, provided you agree to fulfill the desires of Krishna. That is Vrindavan.
Right? So you can turn the material world also into Vrindavan, provided you agree to fulfill desires. Next section from 70 to 22, comparing the material and the spiritual world. 17. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyadham mano viduho ratram yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. The human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together, form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Okay, so Prabhupada is giving a whole calculation of this day of Brahma. Sahasra yuga paryantam. Sahasra yuga. One yuga is what? One yuga is Chatur Yuga. They are also called Divya Yuga. That is a combination of the 4 yugas. That comes to how much? Yes, 43 lakhs of years. That is one Divya Yuga. Multiply that by 1,000. Sahasra Yuga. So how much it comes to? $43 billion or 4 billion? $43 lakhs. 4.3 billion. Yes. So 4.3 billion, that is one day of Brahma, 12 hours. So similarly, that much night, that will be 24 hours. So like that, 30 days in a month, 12 months in a year, like that, 100 years. So Prabhupada has done the whole calculation and he gives us the final answer. How much is Brahma's life? 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. And then after that, you see what Prabhupada is like. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable. But from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. Because from Mahavishnu's viewpoint, this big life of Brahma is what? One exhalation and inhalation. So when Mahavishnu exhales, universe comes out, Brahma is born, all that happens. When Mahavishnu inhales, how much time it takes? Exhalation. That's why lightning flash. Then what is our life? So significant, so insignificant. So everyone lives for 100 years, proper expense, but 100 years is relative. So he gives the example of those flies or insects which get attracted to the light. Diwali Poka, so called. Usually they come during that time, Diwali time, October, November. And you can see thousands, you can see at night. It says they're born in the evening and then they grow, they get married, they produce children. All that happens during the night, and in the morning they are dead. And you can see millions of them on staircases everywhere. Their 100 years is finished in our one night. So time is very relative. So even this long lifespan, from our viewpoint, is so insignificant. So Prabhupada also gives the example of Lomas Rishi. You have it, Lomas Rishi. Is when one hair falls out, yes, one day of Brahma passes. So like that, his lifespan is when all the hairs on his body will fall, then he's going to die. But Narad Muni tells him, "Arey, what? You're simply roaming around. At least build one kutir." Oh, life is so short. So requires some realization. And then he says, another example is given. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. How much time bubble lasts? So another example, bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they're in constant flux. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, who is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord in the management of this universe, therefore he at once attains liberation. Elevated sannyasi, promoter Brahma. Okay. So this is continuing about the material world. Avyakta sarva prabhavantya haragame ratra agame praliyante tatraiva avyakta sanyake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. 19. Bhutagrama saevayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratre agame vasha partha prabhavatya haragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. With the arrival of Brahma's night, helplessly unending. Avashya, helplessly. Prabhupada quoted this very often, Bhutva, Bhutva, Pradiyate. So the important point to learn from all this is what? Material life is temporary. And it may end at any point of time. So therefore, there's no point in being attached to material life and material comfort and material achievement. So useless. Everything is going to finish at the end of this life. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying towards the end of the purpose, but those intelligent persons, those are intelligent, like all of you, those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness, use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus they transfer themselves even in this life to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirth. So is it Prabhupada wants us to go to the spiritual world, planet of Krishna, become eternally blissful, not being subject to such rebirth. So this is about the material world, but then there is a spiritual world. Parasasmat bhavanyo vyakto vyakna sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyastu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and manifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyastu na vinashyati. So when everything in this world is destroyed, that is not destroyed. 21. Avyakto vaktra ityukta sammaho paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. that which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as a supreme destination, that place from which having attained it one never returns, that is my supreme abode. So here again, interestingly, Krishna is giving reference to the Vedantists. So, iti uktaha, iti uktaha. That is what Prabhupada translates it as Vedantis. It is said. But who said? The Vedantas, the learned people, they have said. So we see Krishna gives references to other sadhus and learned people at different places. He also follows that etiquette of the Guru Sadhu Shastra. So therefore, he gives reference. So he says, yes, even they have said. Even it's not that only I am saying about my own abode. Even the great learned sages, they are also telling that there is such an abode which is Avyakta and Akshara and Paramam Gatim. And so here once again he says, Yam Prapya Nanivartam. So Krishna is giving so many assurances. You come back to me, you don't have to come back to this material world. So in the purport is basically describing the Chintamani Dham from Brahma Samhita. And how to achieve this Chintamani Dham? 22. Purusha sa parapartha bhaktya labhyasva ananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. So, bhaktya labhya swa ananyaya. So one can achieve that supreme destination by ananya bhakti. So what is an ananya bhakti? We've already discussed in the 14th verse. Ananya chetaha. The same thing, you always find this word, ananya bhakti, unalloyed or pure devotional service. So that is the type of devotional service that is expected so that one can achieve the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada writes in the second paragraph. To enter Krishna's supreme abode of the innumerable Vaikuntha planets is possible only by devotional service, clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. Now the last section of the chapter. (23 to 28), the supremacy of devotion in attaining the Supreme. So here he is talking about achieving the final destination by different transcendentalists. And through that, he is proving the supremacy of bhakti. 23. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayatayanti tam kalam vakhyami bharatarshava. O best of Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Now, Prabhupada gives the final conclusion of this discussion right here in the beginning. So read the purport.
The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or that of matter. They leave everything in Krishna's hand and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as karma yoga, jnana yoga, and hatha yoga, must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of their birth. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not expert, he suspects depend on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Pandita Bhushan, the Sanskrit word kal used during refers to the deciding duty of time.
Yes, so here Krishna is going to describe as to how different yogis, when they pass at different times, they have different destinations. but the pure devotees don't have to bother about it because they think about Krishna and easily and happily return to God. They leave everything in Krishna's hands. Important point. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily go back to God. Okay, so there's no need of speculating and worrying, how I will leave, when I will leave, whether I'll be able to go through the front door of Vaikuntha or the back door or hold Prabhupada's dhoti. So devotee doesn't bother about all. Yes, chant Hare Krishna and leave everything in Krishna's hands. And then happily and easily. So devotee is always happy. He has no anxiety. How well? No. No anxiety for devotee. So that is, so therefore, this whole discussion is not applicable for devotee. That is the superiority of devotional service. But other yogis, they have to have so much anxiety. Oh, when I will leave, what will be my destination? They have so much anxiety. 24. Agni Jyotir Shukla Chanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayasa Gachanti Brahma Vidojanaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So now Uttarayan has begun. So good time to give up the body. But even if you desire, you can't give up on your own. For that, one has to perform a lot of tapasya and become a mystic yogi. So Prabhupada writes that mystics who are advanced in yoga practice. Okay, before that, if one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there's every possibility that they'll have to return. However, again, Prabhupada makes the point. For the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. So please note an important point. This is not applicable for any Tom, Dick, and Harry. This is only applicable for whom? Brahma Vido Janaha. Those who know the Brahman. Only for them it applies that if they leave at this time, then they can achieve impersonal Brahmajyoti. It is not applicable to anyone. Not that any common materialistic person, he dies during this time, then he'll achieve Brahmajyoti. No. Brahma Vidoha. Only one who knows Brahman, who's a transcendentalist, only for him it applies. So if the yogi, by his yogic practice, if he's able to control the time of his passing away, like Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev, he was waiting for the auspicious moment. Of course, the most auspicious moment for him was Krishna coming. But anyway, it coincided with Uttarayan also. So anyway, he had this Ikshamriti, to die at his will, benediction from his father. So if the yogi is sufficiently expert to do that, then he can die at this auspicious moment, then he can go to the Brahmajyoti. But if he is not so experienced, he doesn't have the expertise, then he has to depend on destiny. Now read the previous sentence. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange. Others who are not advanced. No. Others have no control. Others means what? Other yogis who are not advanced. No. It is not referring to common people. The previous sentence is what? Mystics who are advanced, they can arrange. Others refers to other mystics who are not so advanced. Other mystics who are not advanced, they have no control. When to leave the body? They leave during this auspicious time, okay, then they will go to. Understood? Therefore, you see the verse, na? Brahma Vidoha Janaha. It only refers to those who are Brahma Vidaha, who know the absolute. Otherwise, if any common person dies, no, what is his qualification? Yes, there is some qualification. No? It's not referring to anyone. So the others refers to other mystics who are not so advanced. Yes. So lot of preconditions. और कहाँ लिखा है?
मतलब बड़ा ब्रैकेट है ना साल में.
हाँ,
वैक्सीन
6 months, during the 6 months on the sun travels in the north.
पर अगर साउथ से जो वैक्सीन मून है तो भी आप जा सकते हो.
नहीं, ऐसा थोड़ी है.
वो वैक्सीन मून लिखा है ना वैक्सीन.
नहीं, so the first thing is during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north.
ये मेरे कंफर्म हो गए.
हाँ, कंफर्म मतलब क्या है?
तो एडवांस योगी के लिए
फिर उसमें भी ये सब होना चाहिए ना.
उसमें होना चाहिए.
हाँ, उसमें होना चाहिए.
और नहीं है और
हाँ,
और लिखा आपको और जो 6 months सेंटर.
no, see, it is during the entrance of the fiery god, in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Okay, fine. So even if you take during 6 months when the sun travels in the north, but then if it is not that time, then the other conditions are even more difficult. At an auspicious moment of the day. Suppose it is not Uttarayan, it's Dakshinayan. But then it has to be auspicious moment. Okay. So
ये क्वेश्चन है उत्तरायण और ऑस्पिशियस मोमेंट होनी चाहिए. ऑस्पिशियस मोमेंट एनी टाइम होता है.
my understanding is it has to be during Uttarayan.
तो टिपिकल
But in any case, we don't have to bother about that. So text 25. Sumo Ratri Sada Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandra Matam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Okay, so if one passes away during the Dakshinayan or any of those other things, time, then one will go to the moon planet, which is like a heavenly planet. One has to come back from there. Okay. Okay, you want to drink some other thing? So, so now, 26. I'm just saying the translation. According to Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light, one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. So it's just summarizing. 27. Naite Shruti Partha Janan Yogi Muyyati Kashana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. Although the devotees know these two paths of Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Okay, so here the Lord Himself is saying that the devotees are not bewildered by these two paths. So, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yogo Yukto Bhavarjuna. So the devotees are not bewildered. So, as Prabhupada is again writing in this purport, the best way is to be absorbed. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness. Okay, one sentence before. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way is to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness, always dovetailed in a surface, and that this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. And then he talks about anasakta vishyan yasaram, to be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. So devotee is not bothered about this. And the last verse, Vedeshu yajneshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyesi tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upeti chatyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, a devotee, he gets the results of all these different activities: Vedeshu, Yajneshu, Tapasu, Daneshu, Punyaphalam. All these activities, studying the Vedas, charity, austerity, etc. Prabhupada's famous example, what's that? To illustrate this point. One is this example, other one. One is a high court judge. Then you don't have to ask him, did you go to school? Understood. So because Bhakti Yoga is topmost, it is understood that all the lower paths have already been. So Prabhupada is talking about austerities, brahmacharya, and a very important statement which Prabhupada writes here, which we quote quite often. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. And then in the next paragraph, the beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. Okay, and then Prabhupada is basically summarizing the terms and the examples. Okay, that's in the Bhakti purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the matter of attaining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Very much. So we'll start the 9th chapter in the afternoon class. So the 9th and the 10th chapters are very important. So amongst all the chapters, the middle chapters are most important. And the 9th and 10th are middle of the middle. So extremely important and many wonderful things to learn from these chapters. So please do try to come. All right.